Hey friends, Los Angeles multimedia artist David Miller, another one of those talk to camera, totally unedited videos, part 2 of a little mini series about how I survive as an artist, specifically in Los Angeles. And my first video in this series, I talked about, kind of how I run my businesses and how I make my money and things that I've foregone to be able to survive in LA. But after I made that video, I got to thinking I really didn't specify why I live in Los Angeles, because a lot of what I do to survive as an artist and make money has nothing to do with interacting with production industry and or showing galleries or booking freelance shoots. In fact, I threw a lot of that under the bus because it wasn't something that I particularly like to do as an artist. I align more with artists who, got into this because they have a vision that they have to express. And a lot of what I do, animation, AI generated stuff, doesn't really involve a lot of other people. The photography does. But honestly, since I've moved to LA, I've shot less and less, certainly of the art model kind of stuff I used to do a lot of. So having established that there's ways to make money as artists that don't require you to engage with this larger social structure that's near you, this peer community, I felt like I needed to address why I even moved to Los Angeles in the first place. Because I'm originally from Omaha, Nebraska, and I lived there 20 plus years, lived in Phoenix, Arizona, specifically Chandler, with my wife, and we had a house, and I have 2 kids. One's 18 now and the other's 16. And I split from that setup in 2020 and ended up moving to LA in 2022. So this is what I presume will be the next 20 years of my life. And if you're a creative person who can kind of generate their own income utilizing online portals like eBay, Etsy, YouTube, whatever, why is Los Angeles even something you'd want to do? Couldn't you, live somewhere in the boonies in rural Missouri and Iowa, the Midwest where I'm from, and do the same exact thing? So I love Los Angeles. I'm not somebody who's a Los Angeles hater. And early in my college art career, when I wanted to leave Nebraska with the woman that I did marry, we had looked at New York and really enjoyed trips we took to New York, but 9/11 happened, and we were like, I don't want to do that, But I had lived in Arizona briefly, and so we ended up exploring that. And I can tell you, coming from the Midwest and living in the Southwest, that there are creative ecosystems that are in place. Wherever you go in the world, there's some kind of creative ecosystem. And this is always something that's established long before you came into being. And it's going to continue whether or not you want it to continue that way. If you want to make a difference, that's fine. You can be a vanguard anywhere you live, but just realize that it's an uphill battle, and you probably aren't going to change the way that people who live around you think and act and feel, because these creative ecosystems were established literally because of geography, weather, trade routes, access to other cultures and things like that. So occasionally, something like Seattle, Portland, Omaha during the Saddle Creek Records days, we'll get a creative spike in it. But it really doesn't change where cultural centers are, because the other factors that are undeniable, acts of God kind of factors are always present there. In Arizona, it's always going to be hot during the summer months and most of the spring months and most of the fall months. It always will be that way. in the Phoenix metro, I should say. And the people that live there get a lot of good ideas. They're kind people. They're, enthusiastic when the weather is good. And when it's too hot, it is hell. And it murders all motivation. I've seen this in myself. I've seen this in everybody I knew there. And I've seen this in every business that tried to take off. Even the art museums, they close in August because it's so hot. There's not enough tourists, and the people that live there don't want to go anywhere. My family from California once visited Arizona. They're like, where do people live? We don't see anybody here. And I just met somebody that said the same exact thing. I went to Phoenix. I visited. I didn't see a single person on the street. Nobody was walking around. There's, where are people? I'm like, they're all in their cars. They're all in their buildings. They're all in their homes where the air conditioning is. And they don't, they don't walk to the grocery store that's a half mile away. They drive to it. And when it's summertime, you plan your drives for 6:30 in the morning, because once it's 90 degrees and beyond, you're like, I ain't going out. I ain't doing that, And it's really hard to get things going long term when there's snow or intense heat and it just knocks everything down for months. I think to get anything big and original moving, any sort of project, you have to have months, maybe years, and you need to maintain some sort of enthusiasm level or inspiration level, whatever it is. And when that ceases, when that gets, waylaid by natural forces, it just really makes it hard to get anything going. You just can't put enough energy into it. So, Southern California, most well known probably for its beautiful weather, even though we've had rain and we've had fires. This year, it's that those are pretty temporary and they don't affect everywhere. And also it's a couple days rain. We welcome it. It's a nice little break, but generally it's sunny. Also, living by the ocean, the air is really rich. I kind of get off on ocean air. And when I visit Arizona to see my kids or whatever, the dryness of it, I just feel like I'm turning into a mummy right away. It was different when I was acclimated to the Southwest, but after 20 years there, it wasn't getting any better. And in fact, it was just getting more and more frustrating and annoying. And the anxiety level kind of increased being in that atmosphere. So I can say the same thing about other cities I've visited or had friends, long-term friends in Seattle and Portland. As lovely as those places are, the constant rain and darkness, and it's just a motivation killer. And a lot of indoor stuff develops, more Pacific Northwest area and San Francisco area, because being indoors is good for that, for thought process. That's really all I have to say about weather. I mean, if I have to convince you that weather is a good reason to live somewhere, then, it's a common fact. I've never lived by the ocean in my life. I'm from a landlocked state, Nebraska, and I lived in Arizona, dry as a bone. We had the Salt River there, but, there's places where the Salt River is this thick, literally. So living by the ocean is kind of like a dream come true for me, and a lot of people. Definitely going to the beach is a very magical experience when you're not from California or wherever, you're not living by water. When you spend a lot of time by the ocean and you sort of think about it, when it's the end of the continent, and where I live, San Pedro and Palos Verdes area, it literally is the end. It's the very bottom tip of LA, the harbor area, but also, the scale of something that enormous and beautiful and powerful does inspire a lot of creative thoughts in me, a lot of spiritual thoughts in me. You know, I kind of look at the ocean as a representation of God, and you get like landscape, ocean, incredible sky. It's like I'm kind of experiencing what Earth really is in a way that when I lived in Nebraska, it's flat as no mountains, totally flat. There's trees, but there's not even like awesome forests. You know, I don't even know what I would say is inspiring about that place, and maybe that's the reason why people pretty much just like drink beer and watch football as their main goal in life. Go out to restaurants, you know, but the actual topography and geography is inspiring because it's on a coast. You get a lot of international influence coming in, of course, and the fact that I live in the harbor area, huge harbor on the West Coast, very incredible set of containers and bridges on Terminal Island leading to Long Beach, like that whole thing. And you see cruise ships and the Queen Mary, which is like bigger than the Titanic. You know, there's a lot of like really interesting stuff where I am. The creative ecosystem. Okay, so LA is the city, biggest city in the world that has the highest percentage of people involved in the creative industry. I don't have the number in front of me, but I believe this is true. Bono mentioned it in his autobiography, and I've heard it in many other sources, you know. Because the arts are so prominent here, not just film industry, not just TV industry and acting and those kinds of things, but music, visual art, photography, cutting edge stuff. You know, one of the new museums that's getting made is like an AI art museum. And the internet came about in LA. There's a lot of stuff I've learned from Werner Herzog, by the way, who also moved here because he said that LA has the most substance of any of the cities in America. I absolutely believe that's true. And, you know, both him and David Lynch talked about how like the arts moved from New York a long time ago over here, like in the 50s. And this really is the place to be for creative industry. It attracts people all over the country and all over the world who are kind of like the black sheep, and they have this drive and this risky thought process to them. Matt Bellamy of Muse talks about that. It attracts people who are like willing to risk it all for their creative passion, their drive, their dreams. Certainly a lot of the people I know here, one model's from Germany. The one that I used to partner with is from Michigan. I ran into somebody from Ohio, and we always like talk, why'd you come here? And the Ohio lady who works in production was like, life's too short to die in Ohio. And that was as succinct as it needed to be. You know what I mean? Now, whether or not your dreams just come true within like this set time frame that you know, if you give yourself like 2 years to make it or you're out, then I'm sorry, you're out. It's not going to happen that way. And if you came here because you're like, I need to be around creative driven people, I don't need to be around people who shut down my ideas and my energy, I need to be around like a supportive environment, then absolutely this is a place to be. Is it challenging? For sure. But, you know, think about like the actors' strikes and the writers' strikes. If you were in another city and you weren't part of a union, there was no union for you to be part of, then you kind of like have to take what you're given, right? Or you have to make your own stuff and then not engage with other people. But here, you're part of a larger group that has solidarity. And in that sense, you know, people do help each other out. Now, I did another video about the fires in LA and who actually lives here and empathy and all that stuff. And I'm thinking like, there's plenty of people who don't visit Los Angeles or don't come that often. And they have a thought in their head that this is a bunch of performative, influencer, you know, wannabe stars on stage and acting and all that stuff. And then there's like this vampiric industry of agents casting directors, producers, you name it, who just like prey on the dreams of young people, and scammers and all that stuff. Like, in the major city, in a major ecosystem, certainly that exists. Alongside it is everybody who's legit, everybody who's authentic, everybody who's working really hard, everybody who's like checking in on each other, and being empathetic and being strong too. You know, there's people supporting the sobriety of other people. There's plenty of people doing physical fitness, hiking. We have so many trails. They're running all the time. They're always at the gym. They're focused on themselves. They're not all trying to be famous or whatever, you know, but you look at like California and the level of physical fitness, let's say, is so much higher because it's supported here. And if I was to go back to Nebraska, anywhere in the Midwest, really, as much as people, you know, want to take care of themselves, like, I'm almost 50 years old, you know, and I look at all my friends and people I grew up with in Nebraska. I see them on Facebook and stuff. It's like, it's just not supported there. I don't know what to tell you. You know, I'm not saying they had like bad eating habits or drinking habits or whatever, but it's like, they just don't. You can be the one person who's like really trying to look out for yourself, and everybody in your family and everybody you know at work and everybody that you see at the mall has just like let themselves go a long time ago. They gave up on crushing it in the gym, you know, being in sunshine and getting vitamin D on a regular basis. There's no support for anything in those places. Here, when you are supported, you thrive. And it's not like if I was in Nebraska, I would find the one or two other creative people and we're all kind of doing our thing and blah, blah, blah. It's like here, if you wanted to be part of a collective, you can. If, you know, you wanted to help somebody out and they help you back, they can. And also, this is just something I had to talk with my ex with this morning. It's like some of this stuff that you thought was like really impossible and hard as a creative living in other places, it's formalized here. So you can get your questions answered really quickly. Like, I'm curious, you know, I'm a YouTuber, but how do people promote things on podcasts? Do they just randomly write podcasts and stuff? No, there's a formal process to it. There's websites that are going to match you with appropriate podcasts and YouTube channels, and that's part of how you get into the ecosystem. I'm part of the Long Beach Ink and Drink crew. This is a group of comics artists, street artists, and so on who, you know, meet once a month at Supply and Demand in Long Beach, and they do art and tables, and they chit chat in a really friendly, supportive atmosphere. So many groups like that. And then they put together Kickstarters, and then they get funded, and then, you know, it attracts attention of other more established artists, I should say. And then this is just the formal process. It's not hard. It wasn't like a magic trick. You know, if I was in Phoenix and I wanted to like meet up with art groups and I wanted to do book signings and get on all this other stuff, it's like, it's just non-existent. The support network isn't there. And all of this helps me as an indie creator wake up daily and realize that my efforts have meaning and purpose, and that they're not like freakish and weird and nobody understands what I'm doing. And, you know, I would go on dates when I started once I became single, I'd go on dates, and like the people that I would encounter through dating sites would be like binge watching TV. Like, oh, I'm so worn out from work, I just watch TV after, you know. Or you look on their things that they like to do. It's like, go out, get tacos. Like, let's get tacos. That's fulfilling in life. You know, spicy margs and tacos. You see that endlessly when you look on a dating app in Phoenix and you come to LA and people are like doing more than that with their lives, you know. Let's not try. I know I'm being super judgmental. I'm sorry if that's the way it is, but I just don't think, like, I can't be around somebody who thinks that the meaning of life is spicy margaritas and tacos when you're not doing a job that you don't like to do. I have to be around people who are, like, trying to be the best version of themselves and do as much as they can with the gifts that God gave them to you know, what they were made for, and pursue that with as much energy and intelligence and spirit as they have. So that's pretty much what I found in Los Angeles. I can tell you that being the huge major city it is, the fact that I can get around in public transportation without any problem whatsoever is something that I'm not able to do in other cities. And so I don't feel the need to have a car at all here and not put up with traffic and all the other things that people talk about. And anytime that I want to see a good band, a good museum exhibit, gallery show, interact with other artists who are on, like, the cutting edge or, like, a really good skill level, whatever you want to call it, see art of my favorite all-time artists like Keith Haring and, you know, Jean-Michel Basquiat and so on. Any day of the week, I can get out of my apartment in San Pedro and go do these kinds of things. Any day of the week, I want to go chill at the ocean or see the Korean Bell, I can walk there from where I live. Any day of the week, I want to go try a new vegan place or a new coffee shop that has, like, a really cool atmosphere. Any day of the week that I want to do something social with a meetup, or I want to go shoot in a studio with an art model, cool studio, those ones from, like, FD Studios, or just, like, cool major area around me in Palos Verdes and Pedro. Any day of the week it can happen. So that's not something I could say at any other place. And for those who like different kinds of environments, if you want to get into mountains, if you want to go to the desert, Joshua Tree, Palm Springs, do any sort of physical activity, any sort of recreation, view any sport, participate in any sport group that you like, that is all available in Los Angeles. So opportunities are here. The environment is right for creative people. I will never tell you there's no challenge to living here. Expense, the number of times you hear sirens, cars getting broken into, stolen, people on the street who are clearly, like, in the throes of some sort of addiction. Dating's difficult. There's a lot of people who won't date over, like, a certain mile radius from them, no matter how much they like the other person, because it's too difficult to get to that person. But for me, it is worth it. For other people, it may not be worth it. Now, my neighbor's baby is crying. Figures this is a good time to stop. But I'll do a part 3 of this, and then we'll kind of wrap it up as a nice little trilogy of how to survive as an artist in LA, why LA, and then the third part will be a mystery until it's released. Best of luck in your own creative endeavors. Talk to you next time.